There have been, over the past couple of years now within the United Kingdom, multiple riots and protests against mass immigration, and also to do with other ethnic backgrounds fighting with each other, including with something that happened in Belfast. However, I think that within the future will not just be another protest or isolated riot like what happened within Southport or even riots before then. Parts of Northern Ireland are already showing the early signs of Balkanisation, where different ethnic and religious groups increasingly live in separated areas, distrust each other, and occasionally clash. This isn't just a Northern Ireland problem anymore. The same process is quietly advancing in England and the Republic of Ireland. Today, we're looking at how primary Balkanisation is taking hold. Balkanisation describes a country breaking down along ethnic, cultural or religious lines. For years, people were told this could never happen in the British Isles. People always thought that would be majority white or even majority Christian, as some people would say. But recent events in Belfast, combined with rapid demographic change, suggest otherwise. In today's video, we're examining how mass immigration is creating the conditions for primary Balkanisation, and how it is ironically beginning to reshape old divisions in Northern Ireland. What's happening within Belfast with recent unrest is that there has been a highlighted growing tensions between local communities and newly arrived migrant populations. Housing pressures, cultural differences, and a sense that the government is prioritising newcomers, locals, have all contributed to rising hostility. What we're seeing is not random disorder, it's the early stages of different groups pulling apart from one another. Areas that were already sensitive due to past conflicts now experiencing new layers of friction caused by rapid demographic change, and many residents feel that their concerns are being ignored by those who are in power. For decades, Northern Ireland was defined by deep division between Protestant and Catholic communities, with the IRA's long campaign of violence leaving lasting scars on both sides. These religious and political divisions were once so strong that they dominated every aspect of life. However, mass immigration is now creating a new shared pressure. In some areas, traditional Protestant and Catholic communities are finding common ground in their opposition to rapid demographic change and the strain it places on housing, services, and local identity. This doesn't mean old hatreds have disappeared, however, but it shows how mass immigration can begin to reshape historic divisions by giving previous oppressed groups something new to unite against. And when it comes down to people who also have Irish identity or even a passport, including someone like Tommy Robinson, the term patriot has been deliberately bastardised in recent years. What was once a straightforward description of someone who loves their country and wants to protect its people and culture has been turned into a slur of a label used to dismiss legitimate concern. At the same time, genuine voices trying to highlight what is happening to Ireland have emerged. Conor McGregor has been vocal about the need to protect Irish identity and has spoken out strongly against mass immigration. Danny Tommo has also been active in raising awareness about the demographic and cultural changes taking place. However, the word patriot is now frequently used as a grief by someone who adopted the label for clout or personal gain without any real commitment to the issues, including someone like himself, such as Tommy Robinson or even Danny Tommo, who wants to, in quote, essentially try to take over the UK government, and even without trying to incite it, and as well wants a bunch of boats in to, in quotes, stop illegals. Not the planes or anything, not to do with policy, but also to do with the fact that he wants to basically get enough funding from his grift in order to pay for all these boats. Because let's be honest, if there were all these boats around, who would be able to fund it? Maybe someone like Elon Musk? I mean, apparently he's become a trillionaire now. So someone like Danny Tommo would probably ask someone like Elon Musk. However, I think that is basically so far disconnected from reality. It's gotten to the point where people are just not going to basically be able to see through this and give Danny Tommo his money for his alleged boats that he's never been able to use. And other people who have claimed they want to, in quote, take a bunch of boats and be able to stop illegals coming as try to be a part of a paramilitary unit. For some reason, all of these money are all asking people, all these people, like maybe even asking for something like buy me a coffee, always never come to fruition and always just end up all of this money disappearing into their bank accounts, and all these clueless people fall for it every single time. These types of people have made this even more harder for serious voices to be taken seriously and has allowed the establishment to paint all opposition as extreme. Belfast isn't just one exception or anything, it is an early indoctrinator of what happens when mass immigration meets weak integration or the decline of national identity. People always think that primary Balkanisation doesn't usually start with a full-scale war. It starts with the communities drifting apart until there is no longer recognise each other as part of the same country. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about the Balkanisation of Ireland. Now obviously I have covered other parts of the UK, but when it comes down to Ireland and its history, especially to do with the IRA, the Irish Republic Army, and also to do with Irish nationalism. Now, obviously, to do with the IRA, there have been a lot of bombings, and this has probably been covered by people. Maybe I should make a separate video talking about the IRA. But as you start to notice when it comes down to primary Balkanisation with people's identity, obviously there was the Protestants and the Catholics. And obviously, when it comes down to Northern Ireland, that is a lot of their history is surrounded by a lot of death and violence when it comes down to these types of communities. However, because of mass immigration, it's actually ironically pulled these groups together. So when it comes down to the Balkanisation, there are obviously lots of people from third world countries entering Ireland, whether that's through legal or illegal means. I'm not sure if they have the same boat issue, maybe they do. But what I'm trying to say or get at is that all of these communities are eventually going to have to, put their differences aside and basically try to stop mass immigration. Whether that's through direct action units, and I'm not inciting violence, I do think that what will end up happening is that these groups that have been very violent and hostile towards each other will eventually try to keep reasonable adjustment in that they want to pretty much defend Ireland for the Irish. And whether or not they'll cook or they'll try to make it so that they'll actually protect the immigrants, I'm not sure if the Christ Cooks will do that, because obviously, I've talked about the Abrahamic religions being globalist, and they will allow these people on some mistake convert to, I don't know, maybe what'll happen is that some of these immigrants will convert to Prosedents or even something like with Catholics, but I don't think that'll happen. Now, a lot of them will either just stay Muslim. And because of this, especially with the UK, where the majority are Balkanised areas, where, for example, someone like Birmingham is only, I think, 33% white, if I can remember. Maybe I should get the census up properly, but obviously that area's been heavily Balkanised. There's multiple different foreign groups, especially I've noticed this in multiple cities, and especially how Balkanised they are. Even something like with my local town has also been very Balkanised, and there's only a handful of places now in the UK where it feels like you can only go from all of these big towns and cities to basically just try to hide within them or even move away. And especially to do with one of my older areas near a city where it became very Balkanised. There were different types of foreigners. There was a lot of Polish and a few Romanians moving, and then eventually it's just become a lot more Pakistanified. And because of this, obviously, Balkanisation creates a lot of conflicts. There's too many groups that have too many beefs with each other, too different views, and it just makes a lot of faction fighting, which is what the elites want. And because there's people like you and Moronic, they probably won't be able to get a sense of who the elites or the enemy are, other than the native population that surrounds them, including the English themselves. And as well, if you want to go and link in the description with links to my other channels and Discord as well.